The notification chimed on my phone just as I was pulling my famous apple pie from the oven, and David's voice filled my kitchen with words that would shatter my world. "I can't stand this useless old hag anymore. Soon she'll be taking her final nap and will be spending all her money in Paris." My blood turned to ice as I realized he'd accidentally sent me a voice message meant for his wife, Claire. Without hesitation, I picked up my phone and made one call. "Initiate Protocol Nightingale. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I'm Margaret Thompson, 64 years old, and until 30 seconds ago, I believed my son David loved me. I'd spent the morning baking his favorite pie for his visit tomorrow, humming old songs while flour dusted my kitchen counter. Now I stood frozen, holding my phone like it was a poisonous snake. The message had been brief, but devastatingly clear. David's voice, thick with irritation, complaining to Claire about having to visit the old hag again, how they were both tired of pretending to care, how they'd already picked out the Parisian hotel where they'd celebrate once I was gone. My hands didn't shake as I replayed the message. 3 years of widowhood had taught me that the people who claim to love you most are often the ones plotting your demise. But this was my own son. I walked to my kitchen window, looking out at the garden where my late husband Robert had planted roses every spring. "Well, honey," I whispered to his memory, "looks like it's time to unleash Nightingale." Nightingale? Robert and I had conceived it as a shield against the wolves, even those cloaked in family ties. "Maggie," he'd said, holding my hand in his hospital bed, "people change when money's involved, even family. Promise me you'll protect yourself." I'd promised, though I never imagined I'd need to use our contingency plan against my own children. Now I dialed the number I'd memorized but hoped never to use. James Morrison, estate attorney and Robert's old friend, answered on the second ring. "Margaret, is everything all right?" "Jim, remember that conversation we had in July about Nightingale?" There was a pause. "Are you saying it's activated?" "Activated. I'll dispatch the ravens. Everything will be in motion by sunrise." After hanging up, I looked around my kitchen. The pie sat cooling on the counter, golden and perfect. Tomorrow, David would arrive expecting his loving, gullible mother to serve him dessert and probably ask for another small loan to help with his mortgage. Instead, he was going to discover that this old hag had been 3 steps ahead of him all along. My phone buzzed again. A text from Claire this time. "Looking forward to tomorrow. David can't wait for your famous pie." I smiled for the first time since hearing that message. "Oh, sweetheart," I thought, "neither of you has any idea what's coming." I should have seen the signs earlier, but grief has a way of clouding your judgment, blinding you to the obvious. The changes in David started subtle. Missed phone calls, canceled visits, and a sudden, almost clinical interest in my finances and estate planning. But looking back now, every interaction over the past 6 months had been a calculated step in their twisted game. It began right after Robert's funeral, when David pulled me aside at the reception. "Mom, Claire and I are here for you," he'd said, his arm around my shoulders. "But this house is so big for just one person. Have you considered a smaller, more manageable space?" I dismissed it as genuine concern. Sweet David, worried about his aging mother rattling around in a 4-bedroom colonial. How thoughtful. Then came the visits that felt more like appraisals. Claire would run her fingers along the antique furniture, commenting on the potential of the original hardwood floors, the charming old fixtures that could be so easily updated. David would nod along, asking casual questions about property taxes and estate valuations. Last month, they'd presented me with glossy brochures for luxury retirement communities with names like Serenity Gardens and Willow Creek Estates, places where I could enjoy my golden years without the burden of homeownership. "Look at these amenities," Claire had exclaimed, pointing to pictures of perfectly coiffed seniors playing bridge and sipping cocktails. "You'd make so many friends." The final straw came 3 weeks ago when David suggested I consult with his trusted financial advisor. "Just to ensure your nest egg is properly diversified, Mom. You wouldn't want to outlive your assets." Outlive my assets? As if I were some feeble-minded woman who couldn't distinguish a debit from a credit. I'd managed our finances for 37 years of marriage while Robert dedicated himself to his dental practice. Now their motives were glaringly clear. They weren't concerned about my well-being. They were fixated on expediting their access to my wealth. I retrieved the file I kept locked in my desk, the one labeled Contingency Plans. Inside were copies of everything: my existing will, Robert's life insurance policy, property deeds, and investment portfolios. Everything David and Claire believed they knew about. What they didn't know was that Robert and I had foreseen this possibility long before his diagnosis. People reveal their true colors when death and money are involved. Robert had warned me during one of his chemo treatments. Even family, especially family. He'd insisted we establish safeguards, irrevocable trusts, ironclad legal clauses, and self-destruct mechanisms that would activate the instant anyone attempted to exploit me. At the time, I'd thought he was being overly cautious. Now I realized he'd been a visionary. My phone rang. Sarah, my daughter. "Hi, Mom. How are you doing?" Sarah's voice carried the same carefully modulated concern I'd detected from David, but it felt hollow, rehearsed. "I'm fine, honey. Actually, David's coming over tomorrow." "Oh," Sarah responded, a subtle edge of surprise in her tone. "He didn't mention that when we spoke yesterday." Intriguing. So, my children were conspiring behind my back. "Sarah, can I ask you something? Have you and David been coordinating your efforts regarding my future?" Silence, then a carefully crafted response. "We're just concerned about you, Mom, living alone in that big house, managing everything on your own." There it was. The same script David had been reciting. "I see. And I assume you both have recommendations for my next steps?" "Well," Sarah's voice grew softer. "There are some lovely communities where you could receive assistance when needed while still maintaining your autonomy." Autonomy. They kept using that word, but their actions painted a vastly different picture. After I ended the call, I sank into Robert's old recliner, the one I'd preserved exactly as he'd left it. Even my daughter was complicit, both my children circling like vultures, anticipating the feast of my estate. Tomorrow's visit was going to be a rather illuminating experience for all involved. The morning dawned crisp and clear, ideal for the unmasking I had planned. At precisely 9 a.m., the doorbell chimed. I opened the door to find David and Claire standing on my porch, wearing the practiced smiles one encounters at memorial services, sympathetic but subtly impatient. "Mom." David enveloped me in a hug that felt strangely devoid of warmth. "You look wonderful." Claire presented me with a bouquet of grocery store daisies. "These are for you, Margaret. David mentioned how much you adore them." I'd been allergic to daisies for 2 decades, but I accepted them with a gracious smile. Some battles were best reserved for the strategic moment. Come in. I've brewed a fresh pot of coffee." They entered my living room, their eyes darting around, assessing, cataloging. Claire's gaze lingered on my grandmother's antique china cabinet. David studied the family portraits as if mentally deciding which ones he'd deem worthy of salvaging. "So, Mom," David began after we'd exhausted the predictable small talk about the weather, "Claire and I have been giving considerable thought to your situation." "My situation?" "Well, living alone, managing this sprawling house, handling all the responsibilities." I poured coffee with unwavering hands. "What responsibilities are those, David?" He exchanged a fleeting glance with Claire. The lawn care, home maintenance, grocery shopping, managing your medications?" "I don't take any medications except for my daily vitamins." "Right, but as you age..." "I'm 64, not 94. Claire leaned forward, adopting her concerned expression. "Of course you're still vibrant and independent, Margaret, but wouldn't it be wonderful to have support, to reside somewhere where you wouldn't have to worry about a thing?" She produced new brochures, even more opulent than the last, showcasing higher price points and buzzwords like exclusive and resort-style living. "Look at this one," David said, spreading a particularly glossy pamphlet across my coffee table. Millbrook Estates. It boasts a championship golf course, 3 gourmet restaurants, and they handle absolutely everything. Housekeeping, culinary services, even transportation to medical appointments. I examined the brochure. The monthly fees started at $10,000. This appears rather extravagant. That's the beauty of it, Claire said, her eyes gleaming with avarice. You'd sell this house, and the proceeds would comfortably cover years of carefree living. Ah, there it was. Sell the house, and what becomes of the remaining funds upon my death? Another furtive exchange of glances. Well, David said carefully, any residual assets would be distributed to your designated beneficiaries as outlined in your will. I see. And you've familiarized yourselves with my will? Not in its entirety, but we understand the general framework. Sarah and I inherit equally, correct? That's what you and Dad always conveyed. I set down my coffee cup, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. Actually, that arrangement has been revised. The temperature in the room plummeted. Revised? Claire's voice trembled slightly. What do you mean? I mean, I've updated my will multiple times since your father's passing. David's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Mom, you should have consulted us before making significant financial decisions. We could have provided valuable insights. Oh, I assure you, I possess a complete understanding of the implications. I rose and walked to my desk, retrieving a thick manila envelope. In fact, I have copies here should you wish to review them. Claire gripped her purse so tightly her knuckles were alabaster. Margaret, surely there's no need for any drastic alterations. Your original will was perfectly equitable. Drastic? I arched an eyebrow. An interesting choice of words. David stood abruptly. Mom, I believe we all need to take a step back. You're clearly distressed about something, and making irreversible legal changes in an emotionally heightened state is unwise. Distressed? I almost laughed. David, I haven't felt this clear-headed in years. My phone chose that precise moment to ring. James Morrison, punctual as always. Excuse me, I said, answering the call. Margaret Thompson speaking. Mrs. Thompson, this is James Morrison. I'm calling to confirm that all provisions of Protocol Nightingale have been fully executed and ratified as of this morning. Everything is now legally binding and irrevocable. I ensured my voice carried clearly across the room. Thank you, Jim. I'm so grateful we were able to activate my late husband's protective measures. After I disconnected the call, the silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Protective measures? David's voice was strained. What type of protective measures? I smiled serenely, settling back into my chair. The kind that activate when someone attempts to exploit a vulnerable widow. And that's when I played his voice message. The color drained from David's face as his own words reverberated through the living room. I can't stand this useless old hag anymore. Soon she'll be taking her final nap, and will be spending all her money in Paris. Claire gasped audibly. She stared at her husband as if seeing him for the first time, though I suspected she'd been privy to the conversation. When the message concluded, the silence was so profound I could hear the rhythmic ticking of my grandfather clock in the hallway. Mom, I can explain, David stammered. Can you? I maintained a calm, conversational tone. Because I'm exceedingly curious to hear your explanation for discussing my demise as an inconvenient delay to your vacation plans. That's not what I meant. I was frustrated, venting to Claire about our concerns regarding you living alone. It was taken out of context, Claire chimed in, her voice trembling. It was a complete misinterpretation, Margaret. David has been so stressed about your well-being. My well-being? I repeated the words slowly. Tell me, when precisely did you book your trip to Paris? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. David's eyes darted to Claire, who suddenly became absorbed in studying her fingernails. We haven't booked anything, David said finally. I produced my phone and displayed a screenshot. This is from Claire's Instagram, posted 3 days ago, counting down the days to our romantic Parisian getaway. Finally secured the perfect hotel. Claire's complexion underwent a series of rapid transformations. That's That's for our anniversary next year. Your anniversary is in March. This post references a September trip next month. David slumped into his chair, running a hand through his hair. Okay. Yes, we booked a trip, but it's not what you think. What I think, I interrupted, is that you've been plotting to celebrate my death with a lavish vacation. What I think is that you've been subtly pressuring me to move into an expensive retirement community to accelerate the depletion of my assets. What I think is that I raised a son who views his mother as an impediment to his inheritance. That's not fair. David's voice rose in pitch. Do you know what it's like to watch your mother live alone, knowing something could happen to her? Do you understand the pressure we've been under? The pressure you've been under? I stood, anger coursing through my veins like a jolt of electricity. The pressure of wondering when I'll finally die so you can inherit my wealth? Claire began to cry. Genuine tears or theatrical display. With her, it was difficult to discern. Margaret, please. We love you. We're concerned about you. Perhaps we've mishandled things, but our intentions are pure. Your intentions are directed at my bank account. David stood as well, his face flushed. Fine. You want honesty? Yes, we're worried about your finances. Yes, we've made certain plans based on our anticipated inheritance. Yes, we believe you're too stubborn to acknowledge your need for assistance. But that doesn't negate our love for you, does it? Mom, be reasonable. We're family. Family takes care of each other. Dad would have wanted us to look out for you. Your father did want you to look out for me. That's why he ensured I'd be protected from you. David's face contorted in disbelief. Protected from us? We're your children. And yet you're accusing us of plotting against you based on a secretly recorded voice message? Claire dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. What exactly does this protective measure entail? I smiled, retrieving the legal documents from their envelope. It means that as of this morning, everything has been irrevocably altered. My will, my trusts, my beneficiaries, all updated according to a contingency plan your father and I devised long ago. Contingency plan for what? David demanded. For precisely this scenario. For the possibility that grief and avarice might cause my children to forget that I'm a person, not merely a financial transaction. I spread the documents across the coffee table. Would you prefer to peruse the new terms yourselves, or shall I provide a summary? David snatched the papers, scanning them frantically. As he read, his face shifted from crimson to ashen gray. This can't be legal, he whispered. Oh, it's entirely legal. Your father ensured its enforceability. Claire peered over his shoulder, her tears forgotten. What does it say? David's voice was hollow. It says we inherit nothing. Nothing? Claire's voice cracked. Nothing, I confirmed cheerfully. Every asset, every account, every penny, it all goes to charity if either of my children attempts to manipulate, coerce, or exploit me in any manner. The ensuing silence was deafening. Finally, David looked up at me, his eyes blazing with fury. You can't do this. We have rights. What rights are those exactly? We're your family. You deserve precisely what you've earned, I said calmly. And based on today's exchange, that appears to be precisely nothing. Claire stood abruptly. This is ludicrous. We're leaving. An excellent decision, I agreed. And Claire, you might want to cancel that Parisian escapade. After they departed, I sat in my silent house for the first time in hours, allowing the quiet to envelop me like a cleansing wave. My hands were no longer trembling. My heart was no longer racing. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt utterly empowered. My phone rang within 20 minutes. Sarah. Mom, David just called me. He's livid. He claims you've completely disinherited him and Claire. David tends to exaggerate, doesn't he? Did he also inform you about the voice message he inadvertently sent me? Silence, then a carefully measured response. What voice message? I played it for her. When it ended, Sarah remained silent for a long moment. Mom, I had no idea David harbored such sentiments towards you. Didn't you? Because he mentioned that you two had extensively discussed my living arrangements. Another pause. We've discussed our concerns, yes, but I would never speak of you in such a way. In what way, Sarah? As if I were a burden, as if you were impatiently awaiting my demise. I leaned back in my chair. Aren't you, Mom? Sarah sounded genuinely shocked. How can you even ask that? Because for the past 6 months, both of my children have been pressuring me to relocate to an expensive assisted living facility, inquiring about my finances, and making plans that presume my imminent passing. What conclusion am I supposed to draw? We're worried about you. You're living alone in a house that's too large for you. You never go out. You don't date. I'm a widow, Sarah. I lost the love of my life. Forgive me if I'm not quite ready to attend ballroom dancing classes and singles mixers. Sarah's voice softened. I know, Mom. I know how much you loved Dad, but he wouldn't want you to cease living. I haven't ceased living. I've simply chosen to live on my own terms, rather than conforming to everyone else's expectations. But the will stands. Both you and David have demonstrated the extent to which I can trust you with my future. The answer is, not at all. Mom, please, I understand your anger towards David. That message was appalling. But I've never uttered such things about you. I've never wished for your death so I could inherit your money. She was right. Sarah had never been as overtly callous as David. She'd simply been his accomplice. Sarah, when David suggested I move to assisted living, what was your response? A lengthy pause. I said I believed it might be beneficial for your safety and social interaction. And when he broached the subject of managing my finances, I suggested that perhaps we should encourage you to be more conservative with your investments. Conservative, meaning what? Meaning more accessible, easier to manage should you become unable to manage them yourself. Mom, you're putting words in my mouth. Am I, or am I finally hearing the unspoken words you've been conveying for months? Sarah began to cry. I love you, Mom. I do. But I also have children to support, college tuition, mortgage payments. I believe that having a clearer understanding of our future inheritance would assist us in our financial planning. There it was, the truth concealed in delicate wrapping, but the truth nonetheless. Your future inheritance, I repeated. Not my present life, but your future windfall. That's not fair. Fair? I nearly laughed. Sarah, fair would have been my children visiting me because they missed me, not because they wished to evaluate my assets. Fair would have been phone calls inquiring about my well-being, not my financial management. We do care about your well-being. No, you care about how much time you believe I have left. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice barely audible. What happens now? Now you both learn to cherish me for who I am, not for what I possess. Or you learn to live without either. The will is final. The trust documents are filed. Protocol Nightingale is in effect. If either of you makes any further attempts to influence my living situation, my finances, or my decisions, every penny will be donated to charity. Mom, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. After I hung up, I walked to my kitchen and gazed at David's pie, still sitting on the counter where I'd left it that morning. It had been his favorite since he was a child. I'd baked it with love, anticipating his smile upon tasting it. Now it felt like a testament to my own naivete. I picked up the pie and carried it outside to my garden. The compost bin was situated near the back fence, adjacent to Robert's roses. As I dumped the perfectly crafted pie into the organic waste receptacle, I felt a subtle shift within me. The old Margaret would have salvaged the pie, carefully wrapping it and preserving it for a future visit, clinging to the hope that things would improve, rationalizing her children's behavior and blaming herself for misinterpreting their intentions. The new Margaret was finished providing excuses for those who viewed her as a walking ATM. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Thompson, this is James Morrison's assistant. Mr. Morrison asked me to confirm that all documentation has been formally lodged with the court today. The revised provisions are legally binding as of 4 p.m. this afternoon. I texted back. Perfect timing. Thank you. As I walked back towards the house, I noticed my neighbor Helen tending to her garden. She waved and called out, "Is everything all right over there, Margaret?" I saw David and Claire depart rather abruptly. "Everything's wonderful, Helen," I called back. "In fact, I believe things are finally precisely as they should be." 3 days passed without a word from either of my children. On the 4th day, my doorbell rang at 7 a.m. David stood on my porch, appearing as if he hadn't slept in days. "Mom, we need to talk." I was still in my bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, wholly unprepared for drama at this hour. "It's 7 in the morning, David. I've been up all night contemplating what you said, about the will, about Protocol Nightingale, about everything." He looked genuinely distressed, which was either an exceptional performance or authentic remorse. With David, it was always challenging to differentiate between the two. "Would you like to come in?" He followed me into the kitchen, where I poured him a cup of coffee without prompting, old habits dying hard. "Mom, I want to apologize, a genuine apology, not simply an attempt to regain your favor." I sat across from him at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed him breakfast every morning for 18 years. "I'm listening." That voice message, hearing myself utter those words about you, it disgusted me, not just because you overheard it, but because I actually said it in the first place. He clasped his hands around his coffee mug as if attempting to warm something frozen deep within him. "Claire and I have been facing significant financial challenges for months. My commissions at the real estate firm have plummeted by 60% compared to last year. We have the mortgage, car payments, credit card debt, and yes, we began viewing your inheritance as a potential solution to our problems." At least he was being honest, or so it seemed. "We rationalized our actions by convincing ourselves we were genuinely concerned about you. But in reality, we were primarily concerned about ourselves, about how long we could maintain appearances before our world crumbled." And so, as the dust settles in Margaret's kitchen, we see that sometimes the hardest battles are fought not against strangers, but against the very people we hold dearest. This story is a potent reminder that love and family aren't always enough to shield us from greed, and that sometimes protecting ourselves means making incredibly difficult, even heartbreaking choices. It's about recognizing your own worth and refusing to be taken advantage of, no matter who's doing the taking. But this is far from over. David's apology, his distress. Is it genuine? Will Sarah come around? Or will the lure of financial security prove too strong? And what does the future hold for Margaret now that she's drawn a line in the sand? That's what we'll be exploring in part 2. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. What would you have done in Margaret's shoes? Has anything like this ever happened to you? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested in hearing your stories and perspectives. And if you have any questions about the story or where you think Margaret should go from here, please ask them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss part 2 and any future videos. We've got so much more to unpack in Margaret's journey, and I can't wait to share it with you. See you next time.